Hi everyone, it's Mike here. So this was a little project that I did for my IndigoBlu design team project for June. I wanted just to create a small flip top notepad, just because, using a couple of IndigoBlu stamp sets. So I've used the collector's edition number 9 Bumblebee set for this. So now, the entire project from start to finish took me about an hour and a half to 2 hours, thereabouts, with a couple of little minor breaks in between to allow for glue to dry and that kind of stuff. I mean, it's going to take a lot longer for me to actually show you how I created the journal. So what I've had to do is, instead of doing a real-time video, I've had to go back to what I used to do, which was a sped-up video with narration. So the one on the IndigoBlu YouTube channel has just got music with on-screen annotations. The one that I'm going to show you is literally exactly the same thing, but this time I've gone through and just added in some voice annotations instead. And like I said, it's a start to finish. I'm showing you everything from creating the signatures, to sticking the signatures in, to stitching the signatures on, to covering the cover and decorating it, including how to do the gilding, the Bumblebee gilding gold flake on the front cover, as you can see there. So like I said, so this was an original project for IndigoBlu. I hope you also enjoy it. So I'm starting off with 10 sheets of plain ordinary printer paper that I'm cutting down the middle, down the shortest side to make, sorry, the longest side if you like, to make some flip top, what I would class as A6 sized signatures or leaves for the book, which Americans I think will probably say around about A2 sized if you're using the 8.5 by 11. So once the sheets are all folded over, I've got my Tim Holtz and Tonic stamp press and the collector's edition number 9 Bumblebee stamp from IndigoBlu, which I've already kind of positioned where I want it onto the stamp plate. I'm using some tree branch archival ink, and I'm just going to stamp up or ink up the stamps, and then I'm going to just stamp the front sheet or of each of the signatures that I'm going to use. So I've got 20 sheets now. So I'm going to do it 5 times with that pattern, and then I'm going to vary the pattern on some others, and I'm just going to go through the entire set stamping on the front part of each one of the paper sheets. So I've finished with the stamping. I'm now going to collate all of the sheets into 5 sets of 4. So I'm creating 5 signatures, 1 each of each of the designs that I've stamped in each one. So now the signatures are all collated, I'm going to make a mark on the spines of the middle of each one, and then from the edges I'm going to measure in around about 15 to 20 millimeters and just make a mark on the edges of each one of the signatures, which are going to be the points where I'm going to pierce through for stitching in. Now that each of the signatures has a mark, I've got my pricking mat and a pokey tool, and all would work, and I'm just going to prick through all of the signatures in those spots where I've marked on the edges. So I'm going to do the same thing for all 5. Now my stitching holes are complete, I can put that to one side and start creating the covers. So I've got some grey board that I've cut just a little bit larger than the spine, the width of the signatures, and I've got my grey board that I've cut just a little bit larger than the actual signatures themselves. So taking some masking tape, I'm just going to join the spine and the two front covers together, and I'll be leaving around about a 5mm gap in between the spine and the covers. So that will give it enough space to be able to flex and fold nicely. And just for a bit of strength and stability, I will be adding tape to both sides. So once the tape's added, I'm going to just fold over and pinch to make sure that the tape is all stuck together and smoothed out, so that it creates a nice flexible hinge on those covers. Next up, it's time to prepare for the stitching. So I have a piece of Buckram book cloth, and I've created a little template here with the same kind of spacing for all of the holes that I've pierced through the signatures ready for stitching. So that kind of correlates with the ones at the edges and the ones in the middle. So it makes it a lot easier to work out where they're going to go on the cloth if I create a little bit of a template. And I'm just going to pierce through using my pokey tool, just like I did before. So ready to start stitching, I have my waxed linen thread. Now you could just use ordinary linen thread and wax it yourself with some beeswax or an old candle if you wanted to. And I'm cutting 5 strips of the linen thread at about 2.5 the width of the signatures. So I'm just going to thread up my first piece of linen thread, and I always start in the middle centre hole, and I always stitch in the centre signature set first of all. So I'm just going to use the 3-hole pamphlet stitch for this because it's only a small notepad, and I think that will be sufficient to hold those signatures in place. So now that the first one's done, I'm just going to repeat the process for the other 4, but obviously making sure that I get all of the signatures the right way around. So that's the last of the signatures stitched onto the buckram cloth. Now it's time to put that to one side to work on my covers. So this is a piece of mustard coloured book cloth from my stash of many colours that I have, and I've stuck some double-sided adhesive sheeting onto the back because glue is messy. I prefer using this very tacky double-sided tape, and I've cut it so that it's a little bit bigger than the grey board. It's about 20 millimeters, or just under an inch bigger all the way around. So once it's stuck down, I'm just going to mitre off the corners and then fold the edges over to the inside of the book. And remember just to pinch in those edges just to get a smoother finish on the edges. If you just pinch in the corners, then once you've folded it over, it just makes it a lot neater and nicer to look at. So once you've folded your cloth over to the inside on all four sides, just go over with your bone folder just to rub it down and commit those creases and make sure it's all stuck nicely. But don't forget to do your spine ridges on the outside. Just run the bone folder where you've got the spine, just like I'm doing there, just to make sure that the book cloth is stuck down. Makes it a lot easier to fold and just generally looks nicer. So next up I'm going to decorate the spine. So I would sometimes put a book plate here, but it's not wide enough for a standard book plate. So instead I'm just going to piece 3 holes into the spine and add some square decorative brads just to give that spine a little bit of decoration and a little bit of extra detail. Once the spine's decorated, I can now stick in the signatures. So once again, using that double-sided adhesive tape or the sheeting, you can use glue. PVA works just as well for doing this, but I like to use this double-sided tape because it's extremely sticky and I know it's not going to go anywhere. So just make sure that you line up your signatures to the center of the spine to make sure you get it as equal as you possibly can, and then stick it down and commit it in place. So once they're stuck down, I always like to go over and in between all of the signatures with the bone folder just to make sure that it's all stuck down as perfectly as possible. So now that the signatures are stuck and in place, it's time to decorate the inside, front and back cover. So to do that, I've got 2 sheets of cardstock and I've just brought out some archival inks. I'm going to blend some ink into the background just to kind of create a mottled background kind of texture, and then I'm going to add some stamping over the top to decorate those inside front covers. So I've got 2 stamp sets. I've got that Bumblebee stamp set and also some pen nibs, like fountain pen nibs, but this is an orphan stamp. I know it's IndigoBlu, but I can't remember what the name of the stamp set that it's from, so you'll just have to forgive me for that. So I'm just going to ink up the stamps, and then I'm going to do the same thing for both, so it's going to look the same on the front and the back covers. So I shall do everything twice. Now that the bumblebees and the pen nibs are there, I want to add some stenciling. So IndigoBlu don't have a honeycomb stencil that I know of. There's not one in my stash anyway. So I'm going to use my own. This is my honey stencil, which is available on my website right now. But I'm just going to use that stencil and some of the Tiger Lily archival ink just to lightly rub through, just to give it a little bit of that honeycomb kind of feel and texture into the background. And of course I'm going to do it on both sheets, the front and the back. So this is the collector's edition number 2 French script stamp. I'm going to just grab some potting soil ink, so just a little bit darker brown. I'm just going to randomly stamp that French script all the way in the background just to create a little bit more interest. So once our inside front covers are done, it's time to get them stuck in. So again, I've used the double-sided adhesive sheeting, but you can just use PVA glue for this. It works just as well. So if you're decorating the inside covers with a piece of abstract pattern paper, it doesn't matter which way around you get it, but because I've got my bees facing a certain way, I've added my inside covers so that they're facing the right way on the front and on the back. So it's all facing the same way if you open it the right way up. So now the covers are there, I want to add an elasticated closure. So using my crocodile and some wide elastic, I'm just going to punch a hole through the cover, add a wide eyelet onto the back part or into the back cover, and then I'm going to thread the wide elastic through the hole once I've crimped it in, and then I'm just going to tie it off to create that elasticated closure on the front. So that's it, the elastic is added and that isn't going anywhere. So it's now time to decorate the front cover. So I've broken out my Gilding flake kit from IndigoBlu. So I'm adding some of the FLITTER glue to a piece of fat foam, which is very similar to the cut and dry. I'm just going to load up the foam with the FLITTER glue. I'll make sure there's plenty of it on, and then I can stamp or I can add the glue to the stamp, which you'll see in a second. So once there's enough of that glue on there, you can load up your stamp with the glue and then just lightly stamp it down onto the cover where you want it. Now I'm going to do it a couple of times. So I'm going to have 2 images, one in the top right and one in the bottom left. So once you've stamped using the glue, you do need to wash the stamp straight away. So I always allow my covers to sit for 5 minutes while I go and wash the stamp. Then you can come back and break out your gilding flake. So this is the chocolate box gilding flake. So I'm just taking a pinch out of my tub and then just rub it over the top of the glue or the glued stamped image. I'm just going to rub it gently with my fingers to make sure that I transfer some of that gold flake onto all of the glue. And once I'm happy I've got all of the glue covered, I'm going to tidy away all the excess gilding flake because it gets everywhere. Okay, so this is it's like a rough sponge, they call it a scoochie from IndigoBlu, and once you rub it over the top it removes any excess gilding flake that isn't stuck down. So where it's attached to the glue it ain't going to move, but it removes all of the excess, revealing your beautiful stamped and gilded images. So the finishing touch for me, I like to add some metal corner protectors to all the books and journals that I create. So I have 4 metal corners here. I'm going to add a little bit of glossy accents for glue just inside each of those metal corners, and then I'm going to position them and then pinch them down, flatten them, make sure that they're nice and tight and held securely just by pushing down with the bone folder. So the glue will do the rest. And then when you push down with the bone folder, it will also grab and help to secure those corners in place. Of course, making sure that if you drop any of the glossy accents anywhere, you wipe it off straight away before it dries. And that's it. Once all your 4 corner protectors are added, all you have to do is just to allow the glossy accents time to dry and set, and your notebook is complete. So I hope you enjoyed watching this step-by-step process for making a small hand-stitched and hand-created notepad. Just a nice little jotting pad that you can put some notes and thoughts down, maybe keep in your bag if you need to. So I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, please remember to give it a thumbs up, share the video with your friends, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, you can do so by clicking the button at the end of the video. That's all from me for now. I'll see you all again very soon. Bye for now. I'd also like to say a huge thank you to all of my angels, without whose generosity and support these videos would not be possible. Thank you.